Hello students, welcome to zoology class. Hope all of you are fine. Today, in continuation to my presentations on biomolecules, I am going to discuss about proteins today. Earlier in my first presentation on biomolecules, I discussed about carbohydrates. So today is the presentation for proteins. So these are certain food items which contain proteins. So, what are proteins? Proteins are fundamental building blocks of our body. They are large and complex macromolecules or biomolecules which perform a major role in the functioning and regulating of our body cells, tissues, and other organs in the human body. And they are also used in providing strength to our body in producing hormones, enzymes, and other metabolic chemicals. So, proteins are our building blocks. So, proteins are the building blocks of our body and they give strength to our body to produce many hormones, enzymes, and many metabolic chemicals. And they regulate the function of our body cells, tissues, and organs. And you know that proteins are made up of amino acids. They are arranged in different groups to form the proteins. And these amino acid sequences are specific and its arrangements are controlled by DNA. So amino acids, they are arranged in a specific manner to form one protein, and this manner of arrangement of amino acids in proteins, it is controlled by DNA. Proteins are, so they are the polymers of amino acids. It means many amino acids they polymerize to form the proteins, and there are about 21 types of amino acids, and these are complex organic compounds. Amino acids are complex organic compounds and they contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. So we can say that amino acids are made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And these amino acids, they combine in different sequences to form the proteins which forms the building blocks of our body to give our body a proper strength, and it regulates the body functions properly. So protein is a heteropolymer. Heteropolymer means different amino acids. There are about 21 types of amino acids. So in a protein molecule, different amino acids, they polymerize, they combine to form a particular protein. And protein is not a homopolymer. Homopolymer means only one type of amino acid repeating number of times. So protein is always a heteropolymer, means different types of amino acids they combine together to form the protein. And since our body cannot synthesize these essential amino acids by its own, so we have to take plenty of protein foods in our diet to keep our metabolism in a proper shape. We have to intake some proteins to provide the amino acids to the body which form the proteins to give strength to our body. So what is the structure of protein? In general, there are two types of protein molecules. They are the fibrous proteins and globular proteins. Fibrous proteins are insoluble and they are elongated molecules, and globular proteins, they are soluble and they are compact molecules. But these both fibrous as well as globular types of proteins, they comprise one or four types of protein structures. They are primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. So whether the protein is fibrous or it is globular, both the proteins, they are having four types of structures. They can be primary structure, they can be having secondary structure, tertiary structure, or quaternary structure. For if we talk about the primary structure, it is a specific sequence of amino acids, and the order of amino acids is bonded together, and it is detected by the information stored in genes. So this is a linear, this is a simple structure of the protein. So next comes the secondary structure, and it is a three-dimensional form of the segment of proteins, and they are formed by hydrogen bonds between the atoms along the backbone of the polypeptide chain. Next comes the tertiary structure. Tertiary structure, it is determined by R groups, and it is three-dimensional shape of a protein, and many numbers of tertiary structures fold. They form the quaternary structure by folding, and quaternary structures is arrangement of multiple folded protein subunits in a multi-subunit complex. So these are the four types of the structures of the proteins. So this structure will be further clarified when you will see the diagram. So this is the diagram showing different types of the structure. So if we talk about the primary structure, so this is the primary structure of the protein, and it is a simple linear polypeptide chain, and peptide bonds are present between the amino acids. So these are the amino acids which are polymerized to form the protein, and primary structure is having a linear polypeptide chain, and peptide bonds are present between the successive amino acids, but it is not a functional molecule because it is a linear molecule. Then comes the secondary. So this is the secondary structure of the protein, and this secondary structure, it is spiral. This is spiral or it is coiled structure forming the alpha helix or beta sheets. So it has also peptide bonds and weak hydrogen bonds between every fourth amino acid to form the coil or the helix. So it means it has also peptide bonds between the amino acids, but it has also weak hydrogen bonds after every fourth amino acid to form the coil. So this is the secondary structure of the protein. Then comes the tertiary structure of the protein. So when we talk about the tertiary structure of the protein, so this is a tertiary structure. So it is a highly banked and folded polypeptide chain over itself, and it exposes hydrophilic chains. So this is a folded structure. So then comes the quaternary structure. So when tertiary structure is again folded, it forms the quaternary structure. And in this quaternary structure of proteins, there is an aggregation of polypeptide chains, and these are complex proteins, and they are very big molecules. They are the joint molecules. So these are the different structures of the proteins, that is the primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structure, and then quaternary structure. So these are the different forms of the structures of the protein. Then comes the classification of proteins according to the composition, that how proteins are classified according to the content of the protein's molecule, or according to the composition of the protein molecule. And depending upon the composition, proteins are of two types. They are simple proteins and conjugated proteins. Simple proteins, they have only amino acids in their molecules, and conjugated proteins, they have protein parts, that is amino acid, and it has also non-proteinous part also. And so we can say that protein part having amino acids and non-proteinous part forms conjugated proteins. So conjugated proteins is having proteinous part as well as non-proteinous part, and the non-proteinous part of the conjugated protein, it is known as the prosthetic group. So this is the classification of protein according to the composition, that is simple proteins which are having only amino acids, and conjugated proteins which are having proteinous part made up of amino acids, and non-proteinous part which is known as the prosthetic group. Then examples of simple proteins and examples of conjugated proteins. So first of all, we will discuss about the examples of simple proteins. So albumin, globulin, and histones, these are the simple proteins. Albumin is present in egg, Then globulins are present in antibodies of blood and blood fibrinogen. And histones, they are present in nucleic acids. So these are the examples of the simple proteins. Then conjugated proteins, nucleoprotein. So this is present in chromosomes and ribosomes. Then chromoprotein, it is present in hemoglobin molecule. Then glycoprotein, it is present in blood plasma. So these are the examples of the conjugated proteins: nucleoprotein, chromoprotein, and glycoprotein. So these are the examples of simple proteins as well as the conjugated proteins. Then come to sources of proteins, from where we can get proteins. Although there are debates about the intake of the carbohydrates and fats in order to maintain a proper health, a minimum amount of daily protein intake is always a doctor's first recommendation. It means that people say that we should take carbohydrates and fats to maintain a good health. But doctors always prefer that a minimum amount of daily protein should always be taken to maintain a proper health. So the most common food which has higher amount of protein, they are eggs, almond, chicken, oats, fish, seafood, soya beans, then pulses, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, milk, broccoli, and quinoa. So these are some of the products, some of the food products which contain high amount of the proteins. So we should take these proteins to complete our daily protein intake, our daily protein requirement. Then these are the pictures showing sources of protein. These are the eggs, this is meat, these are the different types of pulses, these are milk and other dairy products, and this is fish. So these are the products which contain higher amount of the proteins. Then how proteins are synthesized in our body. So protein synthesis takes place through a process in the body called as the translation. This process occurs in the cytoplasm of the cell, and it involves the rendering of genetic codes. So ribosomes of the cell help in translating genetic codes into a polypeptide chain. So we can say in a simple terms that ribosomes play a big role in protein synthesis. So these polypeptide chains, they become functional proteins only after undergoing certain modifications. When polypeptide chains of amino acids are formed, they form a protein. But only after undergoing certain modifications, these protein molecules, they become functional. Then we can discuss about the functions of proteins. I told you earlier in the starting of my presentation that these proteins, they help in the formation of many chemicals, enzymes, antibodies, and proteins. So first of all, enzymes mostly carry out all numerous chemical reactions which go on in our body and which take place within the cell also, and they help in regenerating and creating DNA molecules and carry out complex processes. So enzymes are basically proteins. So all proteins are not enzymes, but all enzymes are proteins, and enzymes carry out numerous chemical reactions in our body. Then comes the hormones. Hormones are also found by proteins. So proteins are involved in the creation of many types of hormones which help in balancing the components of the body. For example, hormones like insulin help in regulating blood sugar and secretin. It is also involved in the digestion of process and formation of digestive juices. So it also helps in formation of hormones. Then comes the antibodies. Antibodies, they are also known as immunoglobulins, and it is a type of protein which is majorly used by the immune system to repair and heal the body from foreign bacteria. And they often work together with other immune cells of the body to identify and separate the antigens from increasing until the WBCs, white blood cells, our soldiers of the body, they destroy them completely. Then Proteins provide us energy. Proteins are the major source of the energy that helps in the movement of our body. It is important to have right amount of protein in order to convert it into energy. Proteins, when consumed in excess amounts, gets used to create fat and becomes part of the fat cells. So these are the functions of the proteins. That enzymes carry out many functions, many chemical reactions in our body. Hormones are also very much important for our body. Antibodies are also proteins. Then proteins provide us energy. So these are the functions of the proteins. So this is all about the proteins. You have studied about the functions of proteins, sources of proteins, structure of the proteins, that is protein, primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structure, then quaternary structure, then the structure of proteins depending upon the composition. They are simple proteins, they are conjugated proteins. So these are the certain aspects of the proteins which you have taken today. And now you have to go through this whole of the presentation, and side by side I have already sent you notes on the proteins. So you have to prepare notes by combining the material of both the things, that is presentation as well as notes. Then you have to learn it, and if you find any difficulty in understanding this topic, you can note down the doubts, and when you come for virtual class we can discuss those doubts. Thank you.